Yes.
Been a long time since I left you without a dope beat.
It's Steel.
But you can't be any geek off the street. Gotta be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean.
Been a long time. Shouldn't have left you without
Keeping
a
it
dope
real.
Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Steven and this is Steel Keeping It Real. So before I get started with doing my regular Female Friday videos, I wanted to acknowledge today being Veterans Day. Wearing my red, white, and blue with the flag, and I wanted to make the acknowledgement because I was watching other people doing reaction movie videos to it being Veterans Day. Now, me being a military brat, I know all about the military. From the time I was born on an Air Force base, and to the time that I graduated from high school, my high school was in the Air Force Academy District. And at the time, there was only 2 high schools in the Air Force Academy District. The one on the Air Force Academy and my high school. So we're talking at least 18 years. So I do want to say I thank the people that have fought for our country and who have died for our country. And that's one of the things, Memorial Day does that, but Veterans Day does that, and, we're celebrating the living as well as the ones that have passed away. Now, I could sit here and talk about military movies all day long because one of the only real things that I got from my stepfather was a love of military movies. Now, I went into my bedroom and I found I got The Thin Red Line, I've got Flags of Our Fathers, I've got Black Hawk Down, can you see that? I've got We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. I've got, of course, Inglourious Basterds, but that's fictional. And I have Heart's War with Bruce Willis. And then, of course, you have to have Saving Private Ryan. Now, I'll come back to this one, but I'll tell you what, when I bought this, I have never opened this up. This is a box set, which means Saving Private Ryan came on 2 video cassettes. And, you have the picture, here and here. You can see that, and on the back. And then you got, so Saving Private Ryan, Saving Private Ryan. So, you know what? This thing only cost me at the time because, I got to a Blockbuster before it closed. This was 49 cents for this movie. 49 cents. But I want to get to what I consider my top 3 movies that I would watch on Veterans Day. And the thing about these top 3 movies is that they are all based on true stories. Now, the first one is Sergeant York, starring Gary Cooper. Now, Sergeant York is a biographical film about the life of Alvin C. York, one of the most decorated American soldiers of World War I. It was directed by Howard Hawks, starring Gary Cooper. Cooper went on to win the Academy Award for Best Actor for his performance, while the film also won for Best Film Editing and was nominated in 9 other categories, including Best Picture, Supporting Actor Walter Brennan, and Supporting Actress Margaret Wycherley. The American Film Institute ranked the film 57th in its 100 most inspirational American movies. It also rated Alvin York 35th in its list of top 50 heroes in American cinema. Now, the thing about it is that many movies have taken parts of this movie to be their own. There was that movie that was, and I'll have to do the research on it. I'm just freestyling right here, right now. There was that movie, and it was really good. That was about the guy who was a conscientious objector, who was a medic, and I remember, what was the name of that? Was it called Heartbreak Ridge? That was Clint Eastwood, and that had nothing really to do with actual war. Like I said, I'll look it up. And that, even though that was a true story, and it's a great movie and very graphic, this movie had Alvin C. York was a conscientious objector. He was living in Tennessee. That's where it was. He was living in Tennessee, living his life, shooting, deer and the pigeons and things like that. And, he just had a coming to the Lord after, he just had a coming to the Lord. And then World War I broke out and he got drafted. Well, he didn't want to kill. He went in as a conscientious objector. However, throughout his life or throughout the film, it portrays that he had to do what he had to do in the moment to protect his men. So, it's a great movie. If you ever can find it, watch Sergeant York, because there's not a lot of World War I movies out there, like All Quiet on the Western Front. Oh, there's also that Kirk Douglas movie, Paths to Glory. That one was really good, but that's from the other side. That's not patriotic for American. So the next movie on my list, because we're going to go by year, so that Sergeant York is 1941 is when that movie came out. So we're going to go to the next one, which is 1962, and that is The Longest Day. Now, The Longest Day stars John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, Richard Burton, Sean Connery, Henry Fonda, Red Buttons, Peter Lawford, Eddie Albert, Jeffrey Hunter, Stuart Whitman, Rod Steiger, George Segal, Robert Wagner, Paul Anka. It had all these stars in it, and I haven't even, named, all of them. There were some people who were they were very popular at the time, but they were in the movie. And it had, all these people in it. But what makes The Longest Day so memorable is that the first part of this movie, where did it go? The first part of this movie is basically, where they're on the beaches and things like that, is almost the whole movie of The Longest Day. The Longest Day is about D-Day, and from start to finish. And it has, had The Longest Day been done at a later time frame, it probably would be just as big as Saving Private Ryan, because of the graphicness of it, and even for 1962. There are some scenes that just remain embedded in my mind. But I think at the time frame, John Wayne had a broken leg, so most of the time not a broken leg, he was injured. So most of the time you see him being carried around or driven on a Jeep. So check out The Longest Day. It's a really, really good war movie depicting D-Day. Now, the very last movie on my list is one that probably tops my list. I couldn't find my copy, but I know I have a copy on it, and I know I have a copy of it on DVD. I just can't find it, and I got it somewhere. It's lost in the move. That movie is The Great Escape. Now, The Great Escape, I have probably watched about 100 times because of the nature of it. we'll start with the stars. The stars in the movie are Steve McQueen, which the scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that Leonardo DiCaprio is, talking about it like, yeah, Steve, I heard you were up for the movie role in the, the Great Escape, and there's actually an excerpt of it, but Leonardo DiCaprio is in the place of Steve McQueen. That's the Great Escape. So it's got Steve McQueen. It's got James Garner of Maverick and Rockford Files of the day, and there was many other movies that he did. You have Richard Attenborough, Jurassic Park dude was in this. You have Charles Bronson, Death Wish dude. Yes, he was in this. Donald Pleasance, the doctor from Halloween, he was in it. James Coburn. You have David McCallum, who ended up on NCIS as Ducky. You have other people that you would know if you were back in the day that you would know from face, but you're like, oh, yay, there's that guy. And The Great Escape is about, the film is based on a nonfiction, which means true, nonfiction book of the same name, a first-hand account of the mass escape by British Commonwealth prisoners of war from German POW camp Stalag Luft 3 in Segen, now Zagen, Poland, in the Nazi Germany province of Lower Silesia. The film depicts a heavily fictionalized, yes of course, version of the escape from numerous compromises for its commercial appeal. You were like, well, Stephen, that has nothing to do with, that's the Brits, that's not Americans. But Steve McQueen was in it, James Garner was in it, James Coburn was in it, even though he was acting as like an Australian. You have plenty of Americans in it, and the big thing about it is that in the middle of the movie, because Steve McQueen is like one of the only Americans in the camp, they have a scene where they take time out for the 4th of July, which is a great scene of the movie. But, you really need to check out The Great Escape, considering it's based on a true story. And, there are other escape movies like Escape from Sobibor, about people who escape from prison camps, but, there's not that many ones about Americans. I mean, I forgot that, as I'm talking about it, this movie, Hearts War, is about an escape from a prison camp in Germany with Americans in there, but it's not on my, I don't even think it's in my top 20, maybe, probably number 20, but, yeah, those are my top 3 war movies that I would recommend people watching on a day like Memorial Day or Veterans Day, even 4th of July, I don't know, it's up to you, but they are really, really good movies about the depiction of war. I thought about it, and I had it somewhere, and it was on another list of movies that I could have, added to the list, that dealt with maybe post-traumatic stress disorder or anything like that. But nobody really, people understand. I don't think people understand. Rambo or First Blood can be considered a war movie because he's coming back from Vietnam. And then you get into a whole nother subject because the late 70s into the 80s, almost into the 90s, when you had a hero in the movie like a Rambo or even a Lethal Weapon, they were all, Missing in Action with Chuck Norris, they were all Vietnam veterans. And again, that's probably a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. Maybe I'll do it next year on whether it be Memorial Day or Veterans Day. But I didn't take time to think about the movies of Vietnam in the 80s for this. So, if you are still here, I thank you very much for staying tuned. I really do appreciate it. First and foremost, I want you guys to like these videos as much as I like watching these videos. So or I like making these videos. I'm freestyling here because I wasn't really expecting to do this. All I need for you guys to do to help me out with the channel is to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Thank you for those who have served and who have fallen.